Good.
All right.
Good.
So good evening. My name is Regina Miller. I'm an adjunct faculty PCC in Val's organization. He'll talk a little bit more about that as we're moving forward. You see Val here, so he's going to give us a kickoff into our event tonight, Building Resilience for Coaches and Clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, welcome everyone. It's good to see you and good to be together for the next hour. What a great topic. How relevant for what we're in right now. So I'm really glad that over 35 of you signed up to take this class. You'll hear about some other options going down the road. This is a great topic, not only for the pandemic that we're in, but it's just a great skill and skill set to have in general for those of us that are leaders. So I want to welcome you. As Regina mentioned, we are launching something new here at Coaching for Today's Leaders, and it's called Coaching for Today's Coaches. And so one of the things we recognized is that there are a lot of coaches, like many of you, that already have a credential or you're working on your way, and you'd really like to up your game. You'd really like to really raise the bar, if I can use that phrase, on your level of coaching. And so what we've done is put together a whole series of programs to really help you raise the bar. And so there's a whole series on resilience. There'll be some other trainings on things like coaching at the C level or the high level executive. So you can look for those to come, but I'm excited. This is kind of like the debut of that. Glad to have Regina Miller, who is on our faculty, as well as Claire Meany, who's on our faculty, and John Lieberger. And they're going to be the ones that will be really spearheading tonight's topic on building resiliency. So great to be with you, and thank you for joining us this evening. Regina, I'm going to turn it back to you.
All right. Thanks, Val. Really been good working with you on this effort. Claire, can you flip the slide? Because this is who we are. And you can probably see us. We know that there are some people who don't have their video on. So I've been talking so far, Regina Miller, my colleague, Claire Meany. Claire, you want to get your voice on the...
Yeah, welcome everyone. It's good to see your smiling faces. And I actually love the people who have their pictures, right? So yeah, they're like, we're not necessarily on the video, but you can see what we look like. So my name is Claire Meany. I'm really nice. And I join you tonight from a place called Millersville, Maryland, which is just right outside of Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
And my name's John Lieberger, and I'm in Denver, Colorado.
Great. All right, well, here we go. You ready?
Yeah, so next slide. So today's learning objectives in the next hour are to help you assess your resiliency by exploring four different resiliency components. At the end of the hour, you'll be able to identify your strengths and growth areas to make your resiliency more robust. And then we'll also tell you about the 8-week resiliency program that we're offering to help you not only improve your resiliency as a coach, but to help your clients improve their resiliency as well. And we'll talk about the new ICF core coaching competencies and how they tie into this program. So we'd like you to take a poll. I'm going to launch it in just a second. There's 2 questions. Where are you attending class, and what's your coaching role? So that should pop up on your screen if you would click your answers to those questions, and then we'll share the results.
Does everybody have the poll up?
I'm not seeing any responses coming in, so I don't know. Did it not launch?
Is the poll up, John? I don't see it up.
It came up on my screen.
Oh, you did?
Good.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
It came up here.
All right, great.
Okay, good. Just giving us the thumbs up. All right, John, are you seeing results?
No, not yet.
Okay, I'm seeing in the chat that several people submitted.
Okay, I can end it then and see what we got.
Okay.
Okay, let's see.
Well, that's really funny because I got 0 results. That's
All
not
right,
good.
John, do you want to use the chat? Like have people just
Well,
quickly type
yeah.
in?
Yeah, let's do that. So tell us where you're at, where you're dialing in from, and then also tell us what your coaching role is. Are you an internal coach or an external coach? And that'll give us a sense for where people are from and what your roles are.
Looks like people are busy typing.
Yeah.
True. California, Arkansas, North America, internal coaches, external coaches, Pennsylvania, internal coach. So we have a good balance, internal, external. We've got someone calling from California, Arkansas. Somebody's got a result on the screen for the polls. So
Okay.
we're still working out all of the kinks on the Zoom. So hang in there with us. Oh, 100% North America. Okay. I saw the result. David Harris, thank you. He saw the poll results. 100% North America, 62% internal, and the rest external.
And external. Great.
Great. Perfect. All right. Terrific.
So next slide, Claire.
Okay, great.
So each of you completed a pre-course survey and you received your individual results. And we compiled the results from 21 people that took it as of yesterday so that we could share them with you. And the 4 realms of resiliency that we're going to be looking at today are the psychological realm, the spiritual realm, the physical realm, and the social realm. And our group scored the highest in terms of self-assessment in the psychological and spiritual realm. And then as you can see on the next slide, scored themselves a little bit lower in the physical and social realm. So we're going to be talking about strategies today that you can use to bolster your resiliency in each of these 4 component areas. Next slide. I'm going to turn it over to Claire now. She's going to introduce the resiliency components to you, give you some brief definitions, and then we'll have some interaction about those. Claire?
Okay, great. Thank you, John. Yeah, so we're trying to stay resilient during this whole Zoom experience, right? How do we kind of stay resilient in the face of any adversity? So that's been a really good learning. How many of you just like wave to me in your pictures if you're on the screen there, or you, if you want, you can type something into the chat. But how many of you have ever seen a resiliency model that maybe looks a little bit like what we have up on the screen right now? All right, I love it. I'm seeing some thumbs
lots of
up
hands.
with the reactions and hands. Okay. And anything coming into the chat? Oh, somebody's saying nope, haven't seen it at all. All right.
Good.
So okay. I want to give you, John just went over the results of something that we just asked you to fill out, where you responded to at least 3 questions that relate to each of these components around resilience. And we chose this model, actually, this sort of 4-box model comes out of the research, and we adapted it. It comes out of the research done by an organization called the HeartMath organization. So we can say more about that if you're interested in that source, but basically they have 25 years of kind of researching, not necessarily things that relate exactly to resilience, but things around how the heart is such a really important part of a lot of different things, right? It can affect your perception, your information processing, your hormone and immune balances, So that's one reason that I really, really like this model. Some of you might hear definitions and say, oh yeah, I know that definition, but I call it something else. And we're fine with that, right? So whatever it is, whatever works, it works for you. One thing I do want you to take notice to before I move to going deeper on the definitions is kind of how this word resilience, and I'm going to use my hands here, it's kind of floating in the middle of the model. And that's intentional. And for what that signals for us is something that says we are probably most resilient at the intersection of really paying attention to these 4 components. And maybe a simpler way of saying it is looking at these 4 components and trying to have some kind of balance around them. I know for me, I can overdo a component and not take out time for recovery or rest and recovery. And it's almost working against me. So we really want you to think about that intersection of the 4 different components of resilience. All right, I'm going to quickly just go through and give what I think is maybe a quick definition, a quick way of looking at this. Starting out with this notion of psychological as a component of resilience, having to do with how as an individual, how are you mentally and emotionally able to deal with adversity or crisis? How calm are you in the face of a crisis? What's your mental orientation to adversity or crisis or setback? And when I say that, I kind of slow it down a little bit, giving maybe each of you a chance to really think about that. I think when I'm working with folks these days, right, in the last 5 weeks or so, that we've been in a real different state as a world, I'm seeing varied levels, looking at people from that psychological realm and seeing those folks that would describe themselves as, I'm just naturally an optimist, right? They wake up every day going, I got this, right? Silver lining in all of this. On the other hand, I am working, and I'm really thinking of one person that I'm working with right now, a younger person who is facing a setback. She was sent home from her college, supposed to start out her senior year next year. And what she's realizing, she's becoming really aware that she's like, you know what? I'm not actually really an optimist. I describe myself more as a pessimist. Every day I wake up. And so she's realizing that in this realm of resilience, she's like, I've got some muscles to build. That's a little bit of what I'm seeing going on, at least with one particular client. What your data reveals, and I know John put that up on the screen pretty fast, so I'm just going to revisit it quickly. 87% of you either strongly agree or agree that this is actually something you're already doing well. So the questions on the survey that had to do with psychological, you guys were in kind of violent agreement that, you're pretty good at that, in this particular realm. So let's take a look at a second realm of resilience, or a component of resilience. And this is the spiritual component. And we can all define this in different ways, but a definition that I've been using is an individual's sense of self or purpose, have a set of beliefs, principles, values, something bigger than ourselves that we're able to go back to. In the definition, one of the words that always jumps out at me is this word restorative. Restorative. When I think about restoring something, I think about taking something, caring for it, nurturing it, making it better, restoring it. The other piece of this definition that jumps out for me is, and it falls into the spiritual realm for me, is this notion of giving back to others and giving back to our communities. So recent examples, recent things, I mean, in the face of the crisis, I am seeing so many folks, and they're not really saying, oh, I'm working on my spiritual, component of resilience, but they're doing things that are giving back to people who are in need right now, whether it's developing protective equipment for health workers on the front line, whether it's caring for a neighbor, whether it's, this is one example, a real live example for me from today. My son, who's 19, who was in the midst of a gap year. So I don't know if anyone knows what that is, but it just says he graduated from high school last year and didn't choose to go to college, went to work full time, has now lost his job. So he's thinking of ways to give back. And he went back to a shelter that he remembered volunteering at when he was in high school. And he took this all upon himself. He went shopping, he bought bulk food. I mean, all except for the money that he needed to pay for it. I actually gave him that. But he was very focused on like, Mom, this is just something I really think I should do, right? I wasn't pointing out that he was working in this spiritual realm, but it was like thinking about ways to give back. That's making you feel even more energetic every day. And so what I want to point out in your data, 81% of you agreed that this is something, when you respond to those questions, you're doing things that are demonstrating this component of resilience. All right, I'm going to move on to the next component, and that is the physical component of resilience. And this has everything to do with the value you place, not only the value you place, but the actions you're taking to take care of yourself in 3 areas: eating, sleeping, exercising. Are you making this a priority? Now, one thing that's been really interesting for me to watch with my clients these days, this has been the hardest realm for people that I work with, because they're like, I'm too busy. I'm too busy to do any of this. Well, now people are not so busy. And this is really becoming something that people are saying, wow, I haven't invested a lot of time in this. I have not been eating right. There's no time. I have not been exercising. There's no time. I have not been sleeping because I have to work so hard. So it's really refreshing to me to see my clients recognizing that this is really important. It's a way of like sort of training your system, having your body be ready for whatever it is that's going to come at it. I have one client right now, and she's doing all her meetings as walking meetings, virtual, right? Walking meetings. One day she walked 11 miles. 11 miles in walking meetings, but she's like, wow, I can really see how this is affecting my mood, my energy, and just my attitude toward work. So what your data reveals, team here together, and this is not a weakness, it's, I would say, just an opportunity for you to explore this, because this is where 27% of you either were neutral or you neither agreed. So you neither agreed or disagreed, or you disagreed to the questions that had to relate to self-care around sleep, eating right, and exercise. So when we talk about opportunities, might be something that you reflect on. I'm going to go to the last component, and that is the social component. And this has to do with your ability to think about how you build support systems, how you maintain these support systems, networks, whatever it is that you'd like to call them. So that's one part of it. But I think the bigger part of this is being willing then to ask for help from those networks. So a couple of recent experiences, what we're noticing as coaches, we are the people that are always there for everybody else, but who's there for us? And are we as coaches willing to demonstrate any kind of vulnerability in this area to say, I really do want to tap into my own support network? One of the things that Regina and I have been doing over the last couple of weeks is creating forums in which we can tap into the resources we have. So we're doing meetups on Zoom with our coaches, our fellow coaches that we work with that we don't see anymore. And also fellow facilitators that, because our work is kind of stopped abruptly, we don't see them. We're checking in on them, and we're using them as a network as well. The other thing that's amazing to see is how many people are doing happiness hours, meetups on Zoom with family, high school friends, college friends, friends in the neighborhood that we can't actually socially connect with, but we can still connect with them virtually. So what your data reveals is that 28% of you are not in full agreement. So you're either neutral, you neither agree or disagree, or you disagree that this is an area of strength for you. All right. So I just wanted to connect some of your data, some of my recent experiences and strategies that I've seen people use or I've used myself, and just really definitionally get a handle on how, how we're seeing these components. Once again, the more we're able to balance these and be doing enough in each of the components or quadrants, we're going to be most resilient. So we do want to hear from you, and we are going to use the chat feature again. And just like I did, I would love for you to type in, so what are some of the things that you're doing during this crisis, or maybe it's just things that you do overall that are serving you well? And then what's one thing you could do differently? You're like, but I probably need to add this. We'd look for one chat from each person. It says, here's what I do well, here's what I would need to add. So one chat per person, and Regina's just going to survey that chat for us. All right, so go to the chat.
We'd love to hear from you.
I saw that 4 people had weighed in, right? Okay.
Yeah, well, I was just typing in summaries of the data, but we've got David is walking, adding some non-work friends and building social connections. These are great daily walkings. I'm not watching my eating on the downside. Yeah, a lot of memes out there in the world right now about the refrigerator. Daily walks. My daily walks are to the refrigerator. Meditation, really important. Exercise, not so much. Yep. Exercising daily with my daughter and making health goals. So we're seeing people in different components of the resiliency model here.
Nice. I see someone's, yeah, great.
Go ahead,
Someone's
Claire.
making masks for neighbors, doing Facebook Live for clients.
Great. And taking free education. We call that the skill of relearning, and using this as an opportunity to get educated on some things we might need to do. Eating healthy, yippee. Improve, set aside off time. Nice. Could do better with not working as many hours. Still, people are working out. What I'm hearing is people are often working harder during this downtime for many people, but other people are working harder. Walking, Michigan weather not been so, my friend, naps are the best. Good for you. Lots of Zoom connecting. Meditation, need to be better at relaxing. Gym and walking routine, and could improve eating. Yeah.
Great.
Walking with friends is one way to take care of both. Also making masks. Beautiful. So people out there are busy and doing things in the components in all of the components of resiliency. Very nice. Thank you.
So one of the things that I noticed there is people are struggling with working too many hours. I think for many people, this is a new thing to be working from home. And when you go to an office and work at a job, you can leave the work there and come home and transition. And when it's in your home, it's so much harder to set boundaries and to take breaks and to turn things off and shut it down. So being very intentional about creating strategies around that can really serve you well.
Yeah, great, John. Thanks for that. I think that, in the world of resilience, and I'm sure all of you have heard this, we also have to be seeking recovery. So we can't just go at even any of these components like full force, like gotta be focusing on my resilience all day, every day. But how do we seek those times for recovery where, we're kind of moving it into the other hand and saying, in between everything I'm doing, I'm taking just that time out to say, turning off the brain. What that goes, if I go slow, to go fast, right? To go longer distances, managing our personal energy.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad. I was reading the chat as well. I didn't think I could, but I finally have figured out how to do that while I'm doing the slides. And it was great just to hear what the strategies people are using. And I think as coaches, we have a real awareness of this. And we want you to know, like, I love this resiliency model. It's something that we should be thinking about. Well, how do we help our clients organize around this? But then also, how do we put the oxygen mask on ourselves, right? How are we kind of surveying ourselves and saying, is there an area where I'm either overdoing it, underdoing it, and how do I bring a little bit more balance? So that is one thing that we are hearing from our clients. I know we're hearing other things from our coaching clients, and we're going to put some of those up. John's going to walk us through what we're hearing, but we also really want to hear, well, what are you hearing from your clients? And what are some of the coaching questions we may want to use when we start hearing the struggles from our different clients? So John, are you ready to move in that direction?
I am. Thanks, Claire. So the top 5 things that we're hearing from our clients, especially over the last 5 or 6 weeks, is it's a fear of the unknown. It's a fear of the future. This pandemic is different than traumatic disasters and events that we've experienced in our history. I mean, when there's a hurricane or a fire or an event like 9/11, there's an immediate crisis, an event has happened, and then people immediately move into recovery and restoration. We don't know what the end sight is with this pandemic. So all kinds of scenarios are being proposed, but it's very hard to navigate and plan when there's so much unknown. And the second thing is coping with unclear guidance. Many people that we work with are very competent and independent in their work, and policies and regulations have changed, and now they're unsure about how to go about doing things in this new environment. So they're really struggling with, how do I continue to be my best self when I'm unsure and lacking confidence? And for many leaders that are caught in the middle of trying to answer people's questions about how things are changing and what their work role is going to be, and is there going to be a salary cut, and how do I work from home, and what are those responsibilities? It's requiring leaders to be transparent and supportive. And the struggle is, for many leaders, they're frightened to tell people that they don't know. And there's real power in that. It's a very powerful trust building strategy to just be transparent, to say, this is what I know, this is what I don't know, and when I get more knowledge, I'll tell you. And they're finding that many of their employees are exhibiting a sense of neediness and needing more support and handholding than they've experienced in the past. And part of that is just a response to trauma. And so it's increasing awareness around that. The fourth thing is navigating chaos, ambiguity, and loss. It's, how do you build the bridge as you're walking across it? How do you build the plane as you're flying it? And how do you move more toward accepting a 60% solution when we're used to being really confident in our predictions and in our actions? And then finally, the fifth one is managing a virtual or remote work challenges. And many of you indicated that in your chat earlier, that how do you negotiate those boundaries when you live and work in the same space? Maybe your partner is working from home alongside you and you have limited space, so it's negotiating, who gets to use the office and who has a video meeting that they have to do when somebody else does. And then kids doing schoolwork from home. How do you manage supporting them and encouraging them and tutoring them and still managing your workspace? And then build in time for family time. So those are the themes that we're hearing. We'd like to hear from you. What are some of the things that you're hearing with your clients? Are they similar to these 5, or are you hearing different things? I think we got a small group. We can open that up for conversation.
Yeah, why don't we open it up?
Yeah, we could probably hear from several people.
Yeah, I'd love that.
I'm struggling as a pastor, learning new skills to stay in touch with congregation, to do pastoral care, to live stream worship, and maintain content all at the same time.
Yeah. What are some things that you've found are helping you make that transition, David?
Really good connections denominationally and ecumenically. And there's a lot of amazing free resources. YouTube is a treasure trove for this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's
have you
really,
switched to doing your messages online?
100%. Yeah, I'm even doing Bible studies online as well.
Yeah.
that's I'm just going to add in here, it's one of the topics for the 8-week session, and that is the topic of relearning, and what an important skill that is in resiliency. How am I a quick learner, quickly getting up to speed on things that I've never had to do before. So we'll talk more about that.
Yeah. How about someone else?
Dave here. When one of the things I've noticed in my conversations, in my coaching, is people not acknowledging the sense of loss and grief as it comes out with anger, as it comes out with frustration, as it comes out with overwhelm. And so wherever it is, the questions go back to what is it like? Or when have you felt this way before?
Great.
And we go from there.
Beautiful.
Dave, I appreciate you bringing that up. I think that managing loss piece is something it's foreign to our culture. We want to make it neat and tidy and put a bow on it and walk away from it. And people are afraid of their emotions. Some of the coaching questions that we've identified is, how could you honor your grief over this loss? Getting them to think about honoring it rather than running away from it. Or how could you express your pain, sorrow, and suffering over this loss? What would that look like if you had the freedom and the trust to be your full self and be present in the moment right now?
Yeah, great. I know, John, one of the ones, because, working with some of the college students or high school students that I've even been working with, we've talked a lot about managing endings. So when we talk about loss or grief, and realizing that some of them are having a hard time really even thinking about what a new beginning would look like it's so unclear. But something about what they could do, what could you do to kind of memorialize what is coming, needs to end, right? So just what could you do to memorialize an ending?
Beautiful. I have a couple of things here on the chat that are important to bring to the conversation here. And Dr. Sharon Graff is talking about bringing positive appreciation of the expanse of time. A lot of times we think in times like this that it's all negative, right? So what we're hearing from Sharon is appreciation for the expanse of time and an ability to go deeper into reflection during this time, which is really nice. People are experiencing loneliness, and this is so true for a lot of people out there. As a hospital chat, that was from Patricia, and we've got from Rick, who's talking about as a hospital chaplain, he's hearing a lot of fear and navigating the unknown, the future, the chaos. Yeah, as we have been discussing. From Caroline, we're hearing some of my coaches or colleagues are so deeply involved right now that I'm barely hearing from them.
Yeah.
So, and it's funny, one of the things that I said to a colleague of mine today is I'm inconsistent with my need to reach out and my need to be private, my need to connect versus my need to be quiet. So, and people maybe don't understand how we need to balance both of those things and honor both of those things. Has been helpful to remind my congregation and staff what remains the same.
Yes.
That's one of the key things that leaders talk about in navigating change and transition. What's not changing? It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to send supportive emails. Beautiful. And that's
Yeah,
from
really
Caroline.
nice.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
I was on a Zoom meeting last night with the pastors and lay leaders of my church, and we were talking about how this is really bringing the family unit into focus. And if we can create a sense of stability and consistency and predictability in our homes, especially for our children, whether they're adult children or younger children, to just reinforce, as was said earlier, what is being maintained and what can we look forward to in the future makes a huge difference.
Yeah, great. I know that I'm doing some of that work with my family, John, because the four of us are together. And we've said in the last 18 years that we've all been kind of 20 years, this is the most time that we've ever spent together.
Yeah.
With everything else that was, the pace of the world. So I know what's been helpful for us is to think about what we're grateful for in this pause, right? This is a pause, right? And every day I wake up and, of course my kids think I'm a little goofy, but I say, you know what was great about yesterday? Let's just name 3 things that were great about yesterday. It's sort of that gratitude list that I often use with my clients. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Anyone else have anything they'd like to share?
Yeah, this is great. Thank you all for sharing.
Yeah,
It's really
nice.
nice.
Oh, I see a hand. St. Anne's.
Oh, hi there. I was turning off my chat so I could go back to the chart. I'm John. Good
Hi,
to be
John.
with you tonight. Thank you.
Great.
Good. All right.
We'd like to make a transition here, and a strategy that's very, very useful is managing your breath. Our breath is really the source of life and energy, and when we take in a full breath, it helps us reoxygenate our blood. It helps us calm down, get centered. I see some of you in the chat have talked about meditation and yoga and relaxation practices, so you're very familiar with breath work that goes into that. But I'd like to invite you to participate just briefly in a breathing exercise as we transition out of this topic that we've been talking about and then talk about next steps. So if you would find a place to get your feet flat on the floor, just sit back in your chair so that you're comfortable and fully supported. Maybe put the palms of your hands down on the tops of your legs. And allow your head and neck to relax. If you're comfortable, close your eyes. And now I invite you to take a deep inhale from your belly. Take a deep breath and hold it to the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now exhale deeply to a count of 6. Hold that exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now repeat another deep inhale from your belly, pulling in that oxygen. Hold that inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then a third. Deep inhale and hold it. 2, 3, 4. And now exhale, holding the exhale. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notice the relaxation that you feel through your muscles and through your body. You may even notice a shift in your concentration and a deeper sense of calmness. When we're fully oxygenated and we're breathing, it shifts us out of fear, out of that fight-flight response, and it increases the blood flow from our primal brain to our prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of our brain, and it allows us to think more clearly. So this is a great strategy you can use when you're feeling yourself stressed or under tension or depleted. And it's also a great strategy you can use to begin your coaching sessions with your clients, because oftentimes they come to our coaching conversations and they're already out of breath and they're chomping at the bit. This is an important hour to them and they're leaving aside other tasks that they've been focused on. So taking some time just to focus on breathing and get present and centered in the room can open up their ability to be more mindful and present with you as you engage in the coaching conversation. So I'd like to turn it over to Regina now, and she's going to talk to you about possible next steps. Regina?
John, I want to say thank you for that pause. That was beautiful. For me, I feel completely refocused. And when we share the model with you for the 8 weeks, this is the resiliency skill of being able to reset. Just something as simple as calming ourselves through a breathing rhythm. It's a great thing. So let's talk a little bit about what's our offer and perhaps what might be in it for you. And the 8-week session is called Building Resiliency for coaches and for clients. And we just gave you a little bit of a demonstration about the importance of keeping ourselves fit, resilient, and in this way we can show up for our clients in a great way, and we can help our clients show up for their organizations, their congregations, their people in a resilient way as well. So this program, if you're wanting to get some continuing coach education in 8 weeks, you can earn 28 credits. You'll be able to build on your own resilience, as I've said. And in each 3-hour module, so 8 sessions, 3 hours each, we will be focused on, we'll ask you to do a little bit of pre-work in advance, only 30 minutes, not so much. It could be a TED Talk and an article, or it could be an assessment like the one we ask you to fill out before coming to this session tonight. So there'll be different things so that when you come to the session, we can just get to work. Assuming everybody's done that, we don't have to take a whole lot of time going over things. So we can just really get to the heart of the matter. And we'll focus on a resiliency skill. And we will practice tools. There'll be at least 2 tools per session in the 8 weeks. So 16 tools, 17 tools as we move forward. And we'll also be priming you with a lot of other things because there's just so much out there in the world. Sometimes sorting through it is the biggest challenge. So what we believe we're going to be bringing to you are some really tried and true methods that work and that are relatively easy to access and that your clients won't find hokey or, where'd you get that? Did you get that off of Google? No. So we want to be able to bring you things that are relevant. You'll also be coaching. Everybody will get a chance to coach each session. So you'll be coaching and practicing the ICF core competencies and getting observational feedback from your colleagues. Next slide, please. Thank you. And you can read these objectives for yourselves right now. You can see what we're going to be hoping to accomplish and we'll be working towards accomplishing, and how these link to the ICF core competencies. So just take a moment, breeze through those. So again, we'll keep linking back to the ICF core competencies, making sure we're staying true to those and getting feedback not only on the use of the resiliency skills and tools, but also on the ICF core competencies. So we like to call that triple loop learning. And we're just learning a lot of things at the same time and asking you to hold a lot as you're learning and practicing and creating new levels of understanding and awareness for yourselves as coaches. Next slide, please. So this is the 8-week model each week, or the 8 essential skills of resilience, pardon me. And each week we're going to do a deep dive into one of these resilient skills. So week 1 is reset. And what we just did with John is a great tool, just the breathing. We won't teach that again because you already know it. But we'll be making sure that we define each of these for you and talk about when it's best to use it with a client. And then we'll share a few models and you'll get to practice those. So we've got reset, rethink, recharge, retool, reengage, reinvent, reimagine, and relearn. And we're not going to get into the details here or double click into any of these, but they're all skills. There's no rhyme or reason to them in terms of the order or flow. It becomes your opportunity as a coach to be thinking, what do I need to do right now for myself? And what is happening with my client? And how can I best help them and support them in what they might need to be doing? So some of them are a little bit more simple, like reset is like I'm getting all spun up about some, conversation I had, and somebody irritated me and annoyed me. So how do I get back to center? And something like retool will spend a little bit more time talking about issues that are much more complex, where it's a matter of an urgent life choice. It could be addiction, it could be a serious health crisis, what might be going on with people. So they run the range from, what you might be able to use as an easy access point with your clients and something that maybe a little will require more focus, more attention, maybe a more, we call them 30, 60, 90-day missions, where you might be really working with a client over a significant period of time to work something through with them. All right, thank you, Claire. Next slide. We wanted to just make sure that everybody has had access to the new or updated 2021 ICF core competency model. And several of these core competencies have changed. They've been streamlined. So if you haven't yet, get to the website. All of these are explained in a lot of great detail. And they're not dramatically different from what was before, but things have shifted enough that you'll need to be paying attention to this. And of course, we'll be practicing these and paying attention to them in every session. So we'll really get a good handle on the core competencies. The other thing that we just want to call your attention to about the ICF website is, and we just found this out, and Claire, I think you have that information nearby. For those of you who are doing any kind of pro bono coaching, and depending where you are on your coach journey, whether you're an ACC, PCC, MCC, you are going to be able to get some coaching credit for pro bono coaching. Do you want to say something about that, Claire?
Yeah, so what they've done through ICF is they've just upped the number. So for instance, if you are trying to get your ACC, I don't know if anybody falls into that, but instead of them just saying you can use 25, now you can use 30. If you're a PCC, you can use 60, rather than 50, you can use 60. And then if you are trying to go from PCC to MCC, rather than you being able to document 250, you can actually document 300 hours. So they're just giving you more of an opportunity to do those pro bono and count them for your certifications.
Okay, great. We thought that was pretty good news, because I'm sure we're all doing a lot of that right now. So I'm glad they're recognizing that. Thanks, Claire. Could we hit the next slide, please? All right, so here are the next steps, and then we're going to open it up to some of your questions. So if you'd like to get an hour of continuing education credit for today's session, We're sending out an email with the recording tomorrow. We're also going to send out a handout with key coaching questions for some of the issues that your clients might be facing. So a PDF on that. We'll also tell you how you can get your 1 hour credit if you'd like that. In order to sign up for the 8-week program, you may have access to this in the link. We'll also send it out again tomorrow in that email coming to you. I think we might be able to even put it in the chat box.
I'll do it right now.
Will you, John? Okay,
Uh-huh.
great. Thank you. So for those of you who might be interested in doing that right now, the program is starting on April 29th at 6 p.m. and will go for the following 7 weeks after that. So
Right.
we're looking for 10 people, and I'm hearing we already have a sign up or two. So that's pretty encouraging. Val told us that before we started tonight, so we're really happy about that. The first 2 people are sign up. This is our little like marketing thing. You're going to get Val's new book, and we're really happy and excited for him because he got picked up by a great publisher. So we're very excited. That's coming out in November. So we'd also like to invite you to be coached by John, myself, and Claire. So during the 8-week program, we'll have opportunity to coach you, and that will be a private session. So that's what we've got. That's what we're thinking. As we move forward, we'd love to hear what questions you have and any kinds of reactions or comments. So let us know what's on your mind. And you can unmute and ask. We have some time. Comments, questions. Maybe something's coming up in the.
Someone asked, what's the cost? You can either make a one-time payment of $14.25, or you can make 6 monthly payments of $261. And both of those options are available on the Coaching for Today's Leaders website link that I posted.
In my notes from today, could you tell me again where the 4-box resiliency model came from, please?
Yeah, so it was adapted from the work done by an organization called the Heart Math, HEARTMATH, Heart Math.
Got it.
So
Thank
John,
you.
Maybe someone could put that in the chat too.
Yeah.
But their mission is to increase human intelligence and studying the role the heart plays in, how our everything in our body is affected.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you.
Great. Yeah.
We also find that if you Google 4 components of resiliency, there's 100 models really out there that are like this, and the words are just a little bit different. So, definitions are a little bit different, but essentially saying a lot of the same things. The intentions are there behind those words. Yeah.
And I just added the Heart Math link to their website to the chat.
Terrific. Thank you.
Any other questions about the concept that we could answer for you or for your clients?
Very helpful.
Is there a certification that comes about because of this, or?
We hadn't thought of that, but I'm sure we could do it. Because I know in the other 28-hour programs that Val offers, I know there's a certificate in bereavement coaching. I offer a certificate in coaching public service leaders that's 28 hours. So we could make it a certificate for resiliency coaching, sure.
We can.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. That'd be nice.
Very good.
Okay.
How many, can I just ask a question? How many of you are considering, I think when you signed on, we saw a lot of PCC, or Val was telling us your PCC coaches. How many are considering making the leap or working towards MCC, or needing to, just wanting to get more education in the coaching world? Anybody going to MCC? Considering, have to take
Have to
info
take that
back to
yeah.
church.
Back to the powers that be, yeah.
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 Working toward a
Oh,
PCC.
all right, Karen. Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Great. Working towards PCC.
Yeah.
Terrific.
Well, we will have a recording available of this time if you want to refer back to it. I'll also save the chat, so there'll be a transcript since we've got some resources listed there. And then you'll receive a follow-up email tomorrow with all the things that we talked about of how you can get a certificate of completion for the 1 hour that you spent with us today. So thank you so much. We really appreciate your attention and joining us for this hour, and we hope you found it beneficial.
Thanks, everyone. Hope we meet again.
Yeah, thank you.
Take care.